All right. Good evening, folks. Jeff Kozlowski back here with another episode of the K Stream podcast. We are at episode 12 now, which is kind of cool. I had a nice goal at the beginning to at least get over 10. We've gotten there, and I'm excited that guest number 12 is a gentleman that I had the opportunity to go to college with at Towson University. We spent some time at the college TV station WMJF TV. Spent some time there together for quite some time, and his name is John Broadwater, and he's going to come on. So John has actually taught over 5,000 and counting online classes for learners from all around the world, not just in the USA, but Ukraine, China, the UK, some other countries. He works with VIP Kid and OutSchool. So John has an interesting video production background, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And of course, how his background kind of helps him in his teaching, how he got into teaching, and kind of what technology he's using in this virtual teaching environment. So I'm going to go ahead and bring John in here. John, how's it going?
Pretty good, Jeff. Thanks for having me today.
Absolutely, man. Thank you again so much for coming on. First of all, just tell me a little bit, like I know I gave you kind of a brief intro, but give us a sense of kind of what you're up to these days and what maybe a typical day looks like for you.
Yeah. Again, thanks for having me, Jeff. I'm an online teacher. I teach with mainly two companies now, like you mentioned, VIP Kid, which is mainly students in Asia, lots of students from China, and also OutSchool. It's a company, I think they're based in San Francisco, but it's mainly students in the USA, Europe, Australia, Ukraine, all around the world. A typical day involves me teaching anywhere from about 40 to 70 pre-K through second graders every day. I'll handle anywhere from about 8 to 12 learners per class. That's learners that are between 4 and 7 years old. So if any parent that has experienced online school with a first grader or under can kind of understand it's a juggling act to manage that. But a typical day will involve me teaching about geography, about outer space, about USA states and capitals, sea creatures. I have a spelling bee, and it's just a blast every day. I love what I do, and I'm glad I've found this career.
That's awesome, and it's interesting because you said you're glad you found the career, and so teaching wasn't always part of the plan, right? Talk a little bit about your background. I mentioned obviously at the top that we did the TV station at Towson together, WMJF. So you were kind of headed in that direction, right? Talk a little bit about your background.
Yeah, absolutely. So, out of high school, we'll start from there, I guess. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do with a career. And so I took a few classes and then settled on what's known as communication arts at Allegheny College in Cumberland, Maryland. And I learned about video, learned about audio. And from there, I had a professor that mentioned Towson. So, there I am at Towson, worked with you at the TV station, met a lot of great friends that I still keep up with today. It's weird. Like, I get chills thinking about it, but some of our best relationships were made in college, just the common interests that we had. But anyway, after graduating Towson, I started my own production company, and it still exists. So I can still make a lot of content, but since the pandemic, I really haven't made anything, to be honest with you, just a few edits. But starting in 2012, all the way up until last year, I've made over 200 broadcast and cable ready commercials. So I've been very busy in the last 8 years, making usually 30 to 60-second ads. They'd been shown in the DC markets, Baltimore markets. We worked with Miss United States of all people, so that was a cool opportunity. We've had our work shown in the Traveling Smithsonian Museum as well. But fast forward to today. Let's go back again. Hold on, I'm an editor, so we'll go back, Jeff. About 2018, I noticed a trend in the video industry. A lot of people wanted to use their phones to film things and have more control in the production process. And it's understandable, and can really understand why they wanted to do that. But then just to meet basic financial needs, I looked into teaching, started in maybe January of 2018. And since then, it's been over 5,000 classes and counting. So that's where we're at today.
Yeah, and you mentioned the shift in video production to, shooting with mobile devices. What kind of equipment are you kind of accustomed to shooting with? I mean, you're kind of more on the higher end side of things, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, well, it's interesting how fast technology changes just since we
Right.
were in school. Oh my goodness, just how fast. Like the HVX 200, I don't know if you remember that camera, but that's what my first camera was for my business. And I got rid of it about only 4 years ago. I was still shooting on it, but I found I couldn't get very far by myself. So I started hiring freelancers and still have good relationships with those people today. But I think one of them has like one of the latest Black Magic cameras. And I think my other freelancer, I think he's on a Sony, is it the A7S 2 or 3, something like that. So yeah, higher end stuff. But now I'm down to Logitech cameras and the webcam streaming, which serves its purpose. So Logitech.
Yeah, and so you said it was kind of out of financial necessity almost. So, but what kind of how did you discover? How did you kind of discover VIP Kid, OutSchool? In this search, and what about that kind of stood out to you?
Wow, I mean, I don't know if anything about the specific company stood out. I guess it's kind of the entrepreneur in me is why, like, just running your own business. If anybody hasn't tried it and see what you're made of, because that will challenge you like anything else. So even while I had a video company, I was a limo driver. I have a limousine license. And so that's a way to make extra cash. So I'm always looking for that too. And at that time, I was like, I want to work remotely. And I was looking into coding of all things, and I tried it, and I was like, man, I am not smart enough for this. And I can only get past like two I guess programs, or like, I don't even know what I'm talking about here, so I'll skip that. But yeah, I applied to several companies, and I've worked for about 5 companies, but VIP Kid really stuck out to me because you could control your own hours. For the most part, you are kind of locked into a schedule once you commit. And then from there, discovering OutSchool, it's been a great thing beyond all measure. Like, it's been awesome. So I could talk about OutSchool all day.
Yeah. So what are the differences between the two?
Okay. Yeah. So VIP Kid is mainly students in Asia, primarily China. They're 12 or 13 hours ahead of the Eastern time zone, depending on daylight savings and all of that. So your hours are going to be, East Coast, 4 a.m. to 7, 8 o'clock. And then you can teach at night too, 8:30 to midnight, and really overnight if you wanted to. But I haven't pulled an all-nighter yet. So you're kind of locked into that schedule. But I find it's been very consistent for 3 years running for me. OutSchool, on the other hand, you control the curriculum. You develop everything start to finish with your curriculum. So I really love that. And the schedule, you can appeal to time zones worldwide. So, in a day, I might work 4 or 5 hours between the two companies, mostly with OutSchool. But I think I really like controlling the curriculum there and setting your own hours.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so with OutSchool, you put in kind of a lot of work ahead of time, in putting your materials or classes together, and then you just kind of launch that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I'll just bring up a quick sample of what we might use. So I have a lot of space club promotions running this week because of the Mars landing.
Yeah.
And so, like, I might I make my own. Well, I don't make my own graphics, but I'll bring in graphics from sources that are royalty free, or I get permission from, and develop a lesson. I only maybe do about 30 minutes to an hour of lesson planning a week. But I stay 1 week ahead of my students is how I succeed.
There you go. So that's cool. What kind of talk about some of the technology that you're using, particularly when it comes to or like video or graphics or things like that. Kind of what's the stuff that you're using most often?
Yeah, well, without school, I wouldn't be where I'm at today without Mannycam, the software to be able to put in your own graphics. There's our four inner planets, Jeff, but just the ability to control my lessons. And sorry, I'm kind of all over the place here, but when I first started, I'd have a lot of props. And I still have props all over the place. So it's crazy the amount of things I have, but it got to be too much, and I wanted a way to condense it. So I use Mannycam to teach most of my students. Then I'll, of course, use Zoom or Skype as well. There's an app with VIP Kid. And then, I could go into video equipment as well, but as far as the software, it's mainly Zoom, Mannycam, and the apps with VIP Kid.
Yeah, and what exactly is the Mannycam? I know, we talked a little bit about it just in the prep or leading up to this, but go into detail a little more about that one.
Okay, I'll do my best with that, Jeff. But Mannycam's a software that you can use. You can put in videos or graphics while you're on like a Zoom call. So, for instance, let me see. I have a grocery shopping class of all things. You can look up graphics for that and put that in there. Let me see what else I've got here, so I won't take up your time. But let me see here. Like I have like the Louvre. We talk about that in one of our classes. So you can just basically insert graphics there. But then you also have like green screen capability, but that's a horrible green screen image. So I that worked much better before I just did that.
But it is so it integrates with Zoom.
Yes, Zoom. I haven't tried it with Skype yet. But I don't always use graphics with kids. I do, but not with adults.
Mm-hmm. And so, did you buy? Is that like just an actual green screen background that you purchased for yourself that I'm seeing in the video here?
Yeah, that's known as an Elgato green screen. I want to say it was between $150 to $200, but it just pulls up and it's set up in less than 2 minutes. And oh my, I wish I had this when I film commercials, Jeff, because I would take like 45 minutes to steam the green screen background, and it would be a waste of everyone's time. I really regret not having something like this when filming.
And you said it takes 2 minutes to set up?
Yeah, literally. My background's a mess behind me, but so I won't do it, but it's just like it pulls up and it just rolls up. It's very quick.
Now, if my wife is tuning in, she's going to be like, "Don't even think about it, Jeff. Don't even."
I have
think
two
about
of them,
it.
Jeff. I have two of them.
I saw that thing. I've seen that for on the Elgato website, and just thought about it. And now that I have a real life review, I don't know. I'm thinking about it.
Oh man, I will. We'll talk about a birthday present from your wife. Okay, I'll even send some money for it. So it's worth it. Like
I appreciate that.
A clean key. Like I know mine wasn't that good. My lighting's not 100% the way I want it, but it normally gives you a good key.
And it's easy to travel with, or whenever we can do that again.
Well, let me see here. It's maybe about 5 feet long, so it is a little bit long. It's one piece, but it just rolls right up like a window in a car. Like it's so nice.
Any other kind of equipment that has been something that you're loving as a virtual teacher? What is something that you couldn't live without? Is it one of something you already mentioned, like Mannycam?
Yeah, I think Mannycam's essential for my needs, but I would say for equipment, the microphone, especially with teaching, and your work too. But I guess I'm saying this right. The Sennheiser, I think that's how you say it. So it's a USB microphone. It's a little pricey, about $80, but it was a good investment to get like a little bit more of an expensive mic. I also have one of these like cell phone holder thingies for my social media videos. So that's essential, being able to hold your cell phone. What else do I have here? I have some LED lights. I think they're called flapjack lights. So they've been really helpful too.
That's awesome. And maybe after the fact I can get some. I know you sent along some names to some of these, but maybe I'll get some links from you and I can drop those in show notes or in the comments section of some of these streams. And and as a virtual teacher, in a way, I do a lot of live streaming work. We're live streaming this. You are doing live work a lot of the time with your students. I mean, so you probably have run into your fair share of tech issues, right? I mean, and we were just kind of talking about it, beforehand. So I guess you got to be kind of prepared for anything too when it comes to virtual teaching, right?
Absolutely, Jeff. Of all days for my webcam to go bad, my other Logitech camera just went bad this morning. I was teaching with VIP Kid, and my camera kept cutting out. I thought, was it my USB hub? And they did pay me for the lesson because it messed up that bad, and like they marked it against me. And that only happens like once or twice a year for me. Like I'm very like strict on myself with that, but. So I got another webcam today, but I have a backup webcam. I have a backup headphone, a backup green screen, a backup computer, and an iPad. But this thing right here, and no, they're not paying me for this, but maybe they could, but it's called a Skyrim Solus. So it's just basically a hotspot that pulls from multiple towers, not just one like your cell phone would, but this will pull from multiple towers. And I think they just made it in the app where you can choose the tower, but I'm not 100% on that. But this has been a lifesaver. I just pay for a few gigabytes a month, and where I live in the mountains and it just snowed, like you have spotty reception. So like I think this, out of everything I have, just a backup Wi-Fi, the Solus X is what it's called, the Skyrim Solus X. Been a lifesaver.
And now, is that something that do you pay like a month, pay for a monthly data plan for that?
Yeah, you can. I think it's like $6 to $9 a month for just a few gigabytes. Like for me, I just need it to fill a gap of like an hour or 30 minutes, not very long. And so for me, it's worth it to pay that. I think there's like different models of subscription for it. I think you have to pay like a one-time fee of maybe $150 plus or minus for that, though.
Yeah, that's one thing I haven't come across. I see, I know a lot of at least streamers, folks that do work in the field. A lot of people love Netgear's Nighthawk hotspot that AT&T has plans for. But yeah, no, absolutely. It's so essential. There's so many similarities. I'm thinking, between like the work you do with virtual teaching and just streaming work in general. The backup plans for like I know signal to be able to continue teaching your lessons, power, technology.
Absolutely, yeah. I haven't invested in something for power. I think for my birthday or something, my brother got me like a backup power thing. It's not a generator, but if the power would go out, and with all this ice recently, that's a very possible thing. But well, actually, I think like this right here can power your computer, but if my lights went out, that would be a big deal. So I'm glad you mentioned that. I need to look into that.
And so, and we kind of have touched on it. How does your background in video production help you to this day in what you do with your virtual teaching work?
I think it comes down to what I don't want to sound like I'm bragging, but it's what I would be best at in the video world, which would be the sense of timing and editing. Like that's my whole world when making a production. I think of it from the end first and then work my way backwards. So in my lessons, I'm brief with the kids. I'm quick. It's all about getting to the point, but not rushing them. So it's that sense of timing and editing that's translated from the video commercial world into online teaching, keeping it simple, not making it too busy looking.
That's so interesting. I'm thinking of it from like if a a journalism student were to ever stumble upon this podcast, or a mass comm student at Towson or something stumbles upon this podcast at some point, and it's just like a testament to what you can do with those skills that may not necessarily be journalism or film production.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. So what's kind of, I've noticed some of the work, I think what really caught my attention recently and was like, oh, I got to get John on the podcast, was some of the stuff you've been sharing on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have some, you have some different plans for kind of the next things you want to do with teaching. But talk a little bit about what you've been doing on LinkedIn specifically, because those videos, like I said, were the ones that kind of caught my eye.
Yeah. So, being in the online teaching world, I mean, I'm still fairly new, only 3 years. One thing that I've learned is, well, just like any industry or business, things change so rapidly, so quickly. It's one reason why I started my own video production company, is because I wanted and needed to be in control of my finances and my creative and all of those things. So with VIP Kid, you're sort of in control of your time, but not the curriculum. And with Outschool, you're in control of a lot more, but not everything. So I just got the letter in the mail today from the state of Maryland. I was just approved for my brand new company, an online teaching business that I just started, Online Teacher John LLC. So it just got approved today. But basically, I wanted to be able to freelance without the need for a third-party company. Because it changes every day with the teaching world. I don't know where I'm going to be 5 years from now. Again, I want to be independent outside of a company. And I've always wanted to teach about geography. And so I went and I got a National Geographic certified educator certification just recently, so that I have that behind me now. But like with that, I feel a little bit more qualified to teach that subject without a teacher's license yet. I'm still looking into that. But basically, I wanted to be able to first start teaching adults in the ESL world, in Europe and in Asia, just to teach about geography. But I'm also looking into courses for kids as well. It's a lot more work, but that's where my gut feeling's headed towards now. So it's more so pre-recorded courses.
So so being an independent company, so then would you kind of build something, and how would that work if you didn't have a platform like Outschool or VIP Kid to, kind of share the content?
Well, I mean, it's one of them things. I'm always investing in education, as crazy as it sounds, not in terms of a degree, but I took some courses on how to gain your own students. I'm in a program now, a fairly expensive course, to learn about creating your own courses on either Teachable, Thinkific, Kajabi, and other places. And so I'm learning that world, and it's intimidating, but it's like I'm learning more every day. That's how I would do it, is I would have to sell it through a third party like that and market it myself. But, I feel fairly confident in being able to handle the marketing. It's more so, I think, like how to handle it after it's done, and building the community a little bit in that area is where I need to work at yet.
And yeah, so jump in when you mentioned marketing. I want to jump back to what I saw on LinkedIn. Is that kind of, so you've been posting like kind of, I've noticed they're kind of like short clips on, like what you would, like some of the ones I've stumbled upon are like how to go about small talk, and how that, helps develop a relationship with people. And so, you're kind of giving those tips on LinkedIn. I noticed you're using the green screen and all of that, and creating these cool, high quality kind of short clips. So that is the intention there, to just kind of like get, hey, I'm John. This is what I'm an expert in, and soon enough, obviously, then you'll be able to offer something after that, being the course.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So I'd love to just jump right into the geography world with Outschool. I think I almost 40 weeks, one lesson a week of lessons to teach. So I have plenty of curriculum, but You just don't go out into the world and say, "Hey, would you like to learn about geography, Jeff?" No, no one does. So, small talk. I taught a lot of adults in Asia and Ukraine, and I noticed even after we'd have like a curriculum set by the company, most of them wanted to talk about small talk and like, how do I like handle the beginning of a business meeting? How do I, ask for some food in XYZ situation? So that's why I wanted to focus on small talk.
That's awesome. Well, of course, best of luck with that, and I will, keep following along and
Yeah.
eager to see what you do with that. Do you, you mentioned too before we went on, and like again in preparation for this, that you do want to keep up your production company. So, what's next with that? Anything? Or are you just kind of waiting for the right time to jump back in?
Yeah. Oh man. I could talk about this all day, Jeff. So let's be careful.
I'll
But
brace myself.
um, I'll start at the beginning. So when I first started the company, I'm like, well, I want to make videos. I want to help a business, express their product or service, et cetera, et cetera. And I did that. But I found that as time went on, and it's nothing against the clients, but as time went on, it was 95% what the client wanted and 5% of my thoughts and ideas and skills. And there's a need for that, and you can make money doing that. But I was exhausted. I was tired and fed up. So even before the pandemic, I made a decision that basically I was only going to be making my own content. So I haven't made as much advertising work since, but I've been working on a script, and I don't want to reveal that here today about what that's about. So, but I've been working with some writers who have had experience with making their own films and getting them released and that kind of a thing. So I'm thinking maybe in the on-demand market like Netflix, Hulu, and I've been looking up like how to get your work on there kind of a thing. But my thinking is if my courses are successful and can bring in enough money with that, then we'll look more into making our own productions again.
Yeah, and it's got to be something you enjoy, right?
Absolutely. Like the creative part, like I love doing it. I like making the comedy aspect of things, and I miss it a lot. But I love the education too. So I've been trying to blend the two of those for now, and who knows if both of them can take off again.
What was your kind of area of expertise when it came to production? Were you more of a camera guy or editor or?
Yeah, I would say it would go back to editing if I had to say so. Like just it's all about timing and turning it around for the client. But like, if you would ask a client, they would say, "Well, I'm talking to the producer, John, not the editor, John." So like in my mindset, I'm unfortunately a jack of all trades.
Mhm.
But if I had to choose, it would be editing. But I've been on deadlines that have been just horrendous, and like I'm a less stressed person now, Jeff. So I like that.
That is a wonderful thing, especially in the midst of a pandemic. Less that's something we all could use, right?
Absolutely.
Well, John, it's awesome to see you're doing well. This was a fun conversation. I certainly learned a lot. And where can people find you if they want to learn more about what you do? What's next? Where can they find you?
Yeah. So I prepared a graphic here. I'll just show it real quick here. But people can find me on outschool.com. You can just type in Teacher John, and you can find all my classes on there. But they can also follow me on Facebook at Outschool Teacher John, and also Instagram as well. I find Instagram's really growing well, and they can find me on there. So
Awesome. Well, thanks
but
again, John. Really appreciate it. Anything else? Anything I didn't ask you that you were dying to tell me, or did we hit everything?
I think so. Maybe some of your viewers are interested in online teaching. I've never taken a referral since I started. I should have, as much success as I've seen with it. But depending on like OutSchool, you don't necessarily need a teaching background. If you're good at something, it might be sewing or knitting. there are those kinds of classes. It might be piano, it might be an instrument. If you are looking for a creative outlet or want to teach kids, check that out. If you do have a bachelor's or what's known as a TESOL or TEFL certificate, you can check out other companies as well. But really, it's an open market, and it's only growing. It's really taken off. So check it out.
Awesome. Yes, us as video producers, we can think outside the box and be creative in other fields, right? And have it work out.
Absolutely. Yeah. So always growing.
Absolutely. All right. Well, John, thank you so much for the time. It was a pleasure. Folks, if you're listening to the podcast, of course, please leave a rating and review. It's much appreciated. And John, thanks again, and please take care.
Yeah. Thanks, Jeff. See you.
All right.